Welcome to another installment of What's the Scoop, this time with Insectoid, as we look at BT50 and BT16's Insectoid support, so you can get caught up with the current abilities of this strategy and understand what's coming up soon. But before that, as always, like, comment, subscribe, join the ad army. One little click for you guys is one big click for us. So let's get to it, as we start off with the in training and rookies for BT15 support, as we look at the first Insectoid cards and see where the basis of the strategy begins. As we start off with the in training, the level 2, we have Motimon. As Motimon returns, it has a new effect that is brand new to any of the card game mechanics so far, at least for level 2 eggs. That being an end of your turn effect, if this Digimon has the Insectoid trait, it may attack an opponent's Digimon. Moving into the new associated rookie for this strategy, we have Tentomon, which at the start of your main phase, by suspending one Digimon, one of your Digimon with the Insectoid trait gets 3000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. Its inheritable effect, all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, you gain 1 memory. Now let's take a look at the level 4 and level 5, which is now associated with this line being Kabuterimon and Mega Kabuterimon. As we look first at the new Kabuterimon, which reads as follows: all turns while this Digimon is suspended, it isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's Digimon. Its inheritable effect, all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, it gains 1 memory. Moving into the new level 5 for this strategy, but now moving into the ace card for this line, we have Mega Kabuterimon Ace. Spotting with the counter effect to Blast Digivolve. It's on play and when Digivolving effect, it reads as follows: one of your Digimon gets 3000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. Then if one of their Digimon is attacking, you may switch the target of an attack to this Digimon, and all turns while this Digimon is suspended, it isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's Digimon, and of course it carries the overflow cost of 3. Now we'll move into the level 6 and we'll move into the Tamer, now associated with the archetype that we will be seeing in BT15. As we start off, we have Hercules Kabuterimon. At the start of your main phase, and when Digivolving, you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. Then one of your Digimon gains piercing for the turn. All turns while this Digimon is suspended, it isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's Digimon. And now we have Izzy brand new memory fixer. At the start of your turn, obviously if you have 2 or less memory, you set it to 3. During your opponent's turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, by suspending this Tamer, switch the target of an attack to one of your suspended Digimon with the Insectoid trait. Now that we've covered all of the BT15 line, let's do a little bit of talking about what it's supposed to do. Effectively, this strategy has reworked Insectoid into a very different type of combatant in terms of the Digimon lines. Unlike something that spams the board like Bloom Lordmon, or in any of the case of other green decks, this specific strategy with the Insectoid is focusing more on the use of the suspension and attacking mechanic, and giving level 2 Motimon this ability to allow your Insectoids to attack. You must have suspended Digimon on your opponent's field. That has not changed, so just because you're able to attack does not necessarily mean you can attack into your opponent's Digimon. Now, obviously the DP buffs are fantastic. I think it gives the line a good starting point. We also have access to an ace card that I think is actually very in line with its strategy. I think it's arguably one of the best of the ace cards designed for strategy so far, just because Mega Kabuterimon really does focus on enhancing what the others do and doesn't really change from the strategy. It really just does a buff, in my opinion, where it does well. Believe it or not, of the line, I think the card that kind of feels the odd man out is probably Hercules Kabuterimon. I don't know why, but I think maybe it's just because when you reach its line and you get to the top with Hercules, yes, now you can technically play an X antibody in the deck effectively, because you do have Hercules Kabuterimon X, but we also feel, it just feels like it's more of what the line is doing, but it doesn't feel like it will provide enough aggression, as I think what this deck is currently lacking is the ability to be far more aggressive than it needs to. And yes, it can attack the opponent, yes, it has access to a lot of DP, but can it catch up in a race, as this is kind of the key thing here. But also, Izzy is a massively great tamer, and it does help out this strategy as it's the first green memory fixing Izzy, and we have desperately needed one for any strategy, and now this one has it, and arguably Insectoid has a massive buff. But that's just talking about the BT15 support. Let's move into BT16 because this is where the strategy really does come into its own with the second wave of Insectoid support, focusing on obviously Insectoid as a whole. As we move into the 5 associated Digimon with the new line or the new focus of the strategy, and we have a new level 3 and a level 4 as we focus on Kabuterimon and Blade Kuwagamon. Starting off with Kabuterimon, on play, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, you add 1 card with the Insectoid trait among them to your hand, and you return the rest to the bottom of your deck. Its inheritable effect, all turns, while this Digimon is suspended, it gets 1000 DP. Then we have Blade Kuwagamon. On play, when digivolving, one of your Digimon gets 3000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. It does carry a new rule trait, which means that it is always treated as having Insectoid in its type, so you can search this card off the top of your deck with something like Kabuterimon. And then its inheritable effect, all turns, while this Digimon is suspended, it gets 1000 DP. Moving into the new level 5 and a new level 6 Ace Digimon designed to help out the strategy. We have both Metal Life Kuwagamon, and we have even Grand Kuwagamon. As we start with Metal Life Kuwagamon, on play and when digivolving, you may suspend 1 Digimon. Then one of your Digimon gets 3000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. During your opponent's turn for its inheritable, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, you may switch the target of an attack to one of your suspended Digimon with the Insectoid trait. And we move into Grand Kuwagamon Ace, which digivolves with a special condition to Dino Beamon or a level 5 with the Insectoid trait for a cost of 3. It's on play, and when digivolving, you suspend 2 of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Cards this effect suspended can't unsuspend during your opponent's next unsuspend phase. Then you delete 1 of their suspended Tamers. Your turn, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes suspended, 1 of your Digimon gains security attack +1 for the turn. And now we move into the pseudo and the boss Digimon for this line, the brand new Tyrant Kabuterimon. As Tyrant Kabuterimon is actually still level 6, and it reads as follows. With a special digivolving condition on top of a level 6 with the Insectoid trait and a play cost of 13 or less at a cost of 2. When digivolving, you may play 1 Digimon card with the Insectoid or Larva trait from your hand with the play cost reduced by 8. All turns, while this Digimon is suspended, it isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's Digimon. End of your turn, once per turn, by suspending 1 of your other Digimon, return 1 of your opponent's Digimon with as much or less DP as the Digimon this effect suspended to the bottom of the deck. Now, obviously, this is the part where we transition into the ideas and thoughts, as basically I will talk about the BT16 line right here quick. So basically the BT16 line is going to facilitate in boosting the obviously started BT15 line, as I do think this is the best way, as the BT16 support basically adds everything you need, bolstered consistency, additional DP buffs, and finally an endgame for the deck. As like I said before, the thing with the BT15 line that it was definitely lacking was that it did not have the aggression and or additional replacement support that it needed, as if your stack died, you'd be in a bad position because Mega Kabuterimon Ace is obviously a Ace Digimon, but in this case, we finally have the hallmarks of everything you need to basically stop down your opponent, but simultaneously pressure them into a point where you can take advantage, as I do believe Tyrant Kabuterimon is the way, as Tyrant Kabuterimon does add everything you need. Being able to remove opponent's Digimon through its bouncing effect, availability to replace other Digimon by hard playing into other Digimon from the hand at a reduced cost, sometimes from free with its effect. Even something like Blade and Metal Life Kuwagamon are absolutely fantastic for this strategy due to the fact that they have on-play and digivolving effects that do work in synergy with Tyrant, or so basically to effectively allow you to get set up for your Ace mechanic, as a lot of people may swing over your board, assuming that you had to hard play, and then be baited right into Mega Kabuterimon and the new Grand Kuwagamon Ace. So BT16's line bolsters the strategy. As with ideas and thoughts, let's move into it. So pretty much starting off here in the TCG when we receive BT15, with the nerf handed to Apocalypse and the fact that we are going to have a brand new meta turn the start of March, we are going to see a very different position, as it gives BT15's Insectoid traits a new chance to flourish, as they never really had a chance to flourish in their original metagame, which was dominated by a Pokemon. Now, this does not mean this deck will be tier 1 by any stretch. I do think the problem this deck is going to have is it does not have all of its support, as we do now know. So obviously this deck will be able to play, but I do not think it'll be a top tier strategy, but it will definitely be able to compete against some of the best decks, because the line pretty much just will be bolstered by all the additional Insectoid support that still exists now. As one of the problems I do see with this deck, at least at the current moment, is that since the strategy is really designed to work with Insectoid only, we haven't really seen any of the prior Insectoid Digimon really focus on the Insectoid trait and or typing. So we have this brand new avenue where these Digimon are now going to have to focus on utilizing a type that other Digimon did not have before. However, with cards like the Structure deck, Tentomon, all the way from the Green Starter deck a long time ago, it has focused on adding green cards, so you do have that as an option. You may use cards like Wormmon from BT2 that will allow you to search for higher level Digimon. And you have Stingmon, which effectively has both the effects of Tentomon and Kabuterimon from the BT15 line, as they effectively have the same effect. However, it is all turns, so there are definitely ways to play this deck. It is just now, for the first time in a long time, we have a deck that focuses on a type which has already existing support, but the already existing support has not focused on any of the type that this new type archetype focuses on. So pretty much that's how BT15 will roll out. However, once we arrive to BT16, I do think the deck doesn't just come into its own. It will actually have the ability to play in different variants if it chooses to, as there actually is another way to play the deck. However, we'll have to see it with experimentation. As when we arrive to BT16, we have the addition of a new Insectoid line that actually was introduced into BT16, but doesn't really show its synergy due to the fact that it has special evolution conditions, and we have a new Digimon that will generically support all of the strategies, including Insectoid as well. As we start off with the new Wormmon line released into BT16, as many people would probably overlook this in favor of it being Imperial Dramon support, this actually has very good generic support for the Insectoid deck, based solely on the fact that if you play a Minomon egg, you're able to use Wormmon and Stingmon's inheritables from this set. They're absolutely good. However, for the most part, I think it would just be Wormmon from the set, as BT16 Wormmon is actually very good, as it's inheritable and its main phase effect, where it allows itself to digivolve into a Digimon with the Insectoid trait from the trash for a reduced cost, will allow all of your Insectoids in the trash, if they end up there, digivolving on top of Wormmon for a 1 cost. However, it's also its secondary effect, which is very good, is the fact that when you attack, you suspend 1 Digimon, which is just generic, which gives this deck something that it does not actually utilize as much in terms of its actual effects, whereas this one has it passively, so whenever you decide to be aggressive, you can start stunning down opponents' Digimon to maybe continue with an onslaught. But that's just one of the variations. Wormmon and Minomon as a whole, their eggs don't necessarily line up with the new Insectoid support, so it will be up to you if you want to do that. However, it is a variant that I'm looking into, and it does seem to be a bit interesting, so keep out for that. And obviously, the card I couldn't talk more about because there's already a video for it is going to be Ukomon, as we've already seen by various deck lists from the JP format and OCG. They are loving Ukomon, as this Ukomon from BT16 just slots into this deck so well, effectively allowing you to minimize your usage of memory boost, and then including copies of something like your agility training. You're able to utilize Ukomon just a little bit more than it really should, because it just does so well in this strategy, as you have tamers and Digimon you want to find, but also by increasing your breeding area, you don't have to play a tamer like Mimi if you don't have to, because you'd rather focus on playing your Koshiro or Izzy tamer, which allows you to effectively use Insectoid for what it is. And because of Izzy actually is one of the reasons I can definitely say that the Wormmon and the Minomon line for the Insectoid deck is playable, only because by having the tamer out, you are able to direct attacks to it, so you will lose the end of attack or end of turn attacking effect that you would get from something like the Modimon, but you are able to basically still allow your opponents to have to swing into your pseudo blocker Digimon, basically destroying their Digimon in the process. So everything has its own trade-offs and benefits, but once we receive BT16, this deck will take off. And with the nerfing, obviously, of a Pokemon, this format will be very different than it was over in the OCG, solely based on the fact that these decks have already been hit, which will give Insectoid a better chance at starting off the format with a more aggressive base. But pretty much, guys, that's what we have today. This was What's the Scoop with BT15 and 16 Insectoid, and I do hope you guys learned something from today. And as always, this is Brad from the Ed Army signing off. And for all of you out there, to sign on.